Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 26 transfer plans. Now it is of course a blank game week, and looking at my starting 11 right now, I only have one player that doesn't have a fixture. Of course, the rest of my bench aren't really options as well, but looking at the starting 11, I only have Jota that's blanking, and I can field the rest of these players along with my one free transfer where I replace Jota to get to 11 playing players. So I am in a pretty decent position this game week, considering I do think a number of people will be taking hits. So let's see how I'm going to use this one free transfer. I'm going to be discussing all the Jota replacements that I am considering for Game Week 26. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So before we jump into my team for Game Week 26, I think it's important to share with you guys my current chip strategy at this point in time and how it would shape the way I look at my Jota replacements. So currently in Game Week 26, I have quite a number of Brentford players already, as you can see in my team. They are not blanking in Game Week 29, so they're guaranteed a fixture there. Same for the Aston Villa players here with Watkins, and hopefully by the time Game Week 29 comes around, maybe Konza is back as well. So you'll see that I'm in a pretty decent position actually, where I do have a number of options for me in Game Week 29, where I could very well not use the free hit. Then I could be in a position where I can save the free hit for much later on in the season, towards the end where there are more double game weeks, either in 34 or 37. I could choose to use the free hit then, as opposed to using it in a blank game week in Game Week 29. So for the time being, I haven't committed to any strategy in particular, but looking at the way my transfers are shaping up, and especially how I'm going to use this Jota replacement, it could be kind of committing to an early strategy here. So for the time being in Game Week 29, my plan is not to use the free hit. So I'm going to be looking mainly at replacements that do have a fixture in Game Week 29. But that being said, I am also very tempted by some players who don't have a fixture in 29 but have a very good run up from now in Game Week 26 all the way until Game Week 28, just before they blank. So I will discuss all these players in the next section, but taking a look at my team in general, aside from Jota here, the other 10 players, I'm starting Areola here ahead of Dubravka. We'll see how I feel like closer to the deadline, but to be honest, I'm not expecting too much from both of these players. Both of these teams, West Ham and Newcastle, have been defending so poorly and conceding so much XG over the course of the past few game weeks. I don't see clean sheets for them, so it's going to be mostly save points that we're looking at from these keepers. Now, in defense is Reguilon, Charlie Taylor, and Kyle Walker. Reguilon plays West Ham away, who haven't been scoring a lot, and of course Reguilon is looking very, very attacking. There is still one more game to go where Brentford play Man City, so let's see how he fares in that one, and hopefully he comes out unscathed. But I really like the attacking threat of Reguilon as well. He could very well have scored a goal, leading up to the Tony goal, of course. Right? He could have scored for himself against Liverpool. So let's see what he gets against Man City. For Taylor against Crystal Palace away, it just has the news has just come out that Roy Hodgson has stepped down as the coach or the manager of Crystal Palace. So maybe it has come at a pretty bad time for Charlie Taylor, because now maybe Crystal Palace has a new manager bounce. We don't really know, but to be honest, Charlie Taylor, we don't really know if he'll start, but I'll take the chance here against Crystal Palace away, and him being back on the bench and subbed on towards the end of the game against Arsenal. So I do think there's a fairly good chance Taylor would start. We'll take our chances against Crystal Palace. He gets a decent return there. And then for Kyle Walker, he has Bournemouth away, a decent fixture there for him. In midfield, it's Jota, who I will replace in the next section, and then Foden, Pascal Gross, and Saka. So obviously not going to do anything with these three midfielders. They're going nowhere. And up front, it's Erling Haaland, Ivan Toney, and Ollie Watkins. Erling Haaland probably going to be my captain this game week when he has Bournemouth away. But Ivan Toney playing West Ham away, who have been defending so poorly, I actually think he'll get quite a number of returns as well. So that in itself is actually kind of shifting me towards maybe playing Dubravka, and that's why I'm in quite a bit of a dilemma in terms of keepers. So let me know who you would start in my position. And then of course you have Ollie Watkins, who has Nottingham Forest at home. So looking at my team right now, I definitely am going to replace Jota, so there's no kind of second guessing my moves here, and it's really who I'm going to go for. So let's now discuss some Jota replacements. So this is my team on a Fantasy Football Hub transfer planner, and let's take a look at some Jota replacements that I'm considering. So I'll categorize these replacements into two main groups. The first group will be those players with a fixture in Game Week 29, and the other group would obviously be those players who blank in Game Week 29. Now, personally, right now, I'm more considering those players with a fixture in 29 so that it can enable me to save the free hit then, which is the current chip strategy that I am going for. So touching on these players with a fixture in 29 that I'm considering, they are mainly Aston Villa and West Ham assets right now. So touching on some Aston Villa assets that I am considering, Leon Bailey is the first one that comes to mind. I think there are other options like maybe Douglas Luiz and also John McGinn that maybe some people are considering, right? But personally, I think Leon Bailey looks the best out of all these options for a couple of reasons. He's the one with the most attacking threat from open play, right? Obviously because of the position that he's playing, but also his style of play where he takes a lot of shots from the wing, as well as the flair that he has. I think from open play, he's a player with the most attacking threat. The only thing with him is the fear of his minutes. Now, I've taken a look at his last 12 games, and he's actually played in 10 of them, and the 2 games that he has not played in it was because of injuries. So actually, it could be a case where had he been fit for those 2 games, he could have started those games, and that would be him being involved in the past 12 matches for Aston Villa. And basically, if you take a look at the big picture view, maybe his minutes aren't as at risk as we thought it would be. Right, so Leon Bailey, definitely one of the players that I'm considering. But obviously, let's talk about Douglas Luiz as well, because Douglas Luiz does have a different kind of appeal. Now, he obviously, his threat is not that great from open play, but from set pieces as well as the penalties that he's on, which is mainly how he's been getting a lot of his returns of late. I think Douglas Luiz is also an option that has to be considered simply because of how many points he scored this season, and also from open play, not the most threatening, but from set pieces, if he's not on them, if he's in the box, he also does have quite decent threat as well, as we've seen against Manchester United, where he actually got the goal for Aston Villa as well. Right, so Douglas Luiz, also a player that I'm considering, and slightly different from Leon Bailey, where he is pretty much guaranteed to start every single game and to get 90 minutes every single game as well. So we get different things from these players. And then obviously John McGinn is the last player that I've mentioned. I don't think I'd personally go there, but I can see why some people would favor a punt on him, because he does take quite a number of shots from distance, but that's pretty much it. So I wouldn't really go there. I would mainly consider Leon Bailey and also Douglas Luiz. Now, enough on the Aston Villa assets. The other options that do have a fixture in Game Week 29 that I'm considering are the West Ham options. So obviously Jarrod Bowen comes into play here. The thing with West Ham assets is that it's very difficult to justify bringing them in right now because of the form that they're in. But look at the fixtures that they have. Brentford at home, Everton away, and Burnley at home. Now, of course, they have not been performing very, very well. Jarrod Bowen himself has been putting up very, very poor expected goal numbers as well. So I don't think I'll be going there. But just the fixtures as well as them having a game in 29 just kind of makes me think at least I have to take a look at them and see whether I really do want to bring them in or not. And then, of course, if we don't talk about Jarrod Bowen, the other option from West Ham that we should be looking at as well is Kudus. He's slightly cheaper. He could enable moves later on as well. And the thing with Kudus and Bowen, which I think affects both of them in general, is that Paqueta is still out. He may be back as soon as Everton, but if he's not, I think he's a key, cog to the West Ham wheel, and basically I feel like it's very difficult for West Ham to click without Paqueta, and his absence has definitely been missed. So I think for the time being, I'm really not leaning towards these West Ham assets, but I have taken a look at them because of the fixtures as well as them having a game in 29 as well. So those are the players that do have a fixture in Game Week 29 that I'm looking at to replace Jota. But let's take a look now at the other category of players that I've mentioned just now, where I also do want to consider, which is those without a fixture in 29 but still have decent fixtures from 26 all the way up till 28, and these are mainly Wolves players. So the first player that comes to mind for me is actually Pedro Neto and not really Hwang Hee-chan. I'll touch on Hwang Hee-chan in a bit later on, but for me, Pedro Neto is the one that looks very, very sharp. I think he's the one creating a lot of the chances, and actually that's the kind of the issue with him. He's usually not on the end of the chances that he creates, because obviously he's the one putting in the crosses, getting the assists. So in terms of assist numbers as well, I think this season we've seen how good he is at getting those crosses into the box and Wolves finishing those chances. So Neto, I think the thing with him is he's a very, very good assist threat, right? So for me, Neto is the one where I feel I could go to. But the issue is that Hwang Hee-chan now is on penalties, and that also makes me kind of consider him slightly a bit more than I would have, because Cunha is now injured. If Cunha was in the team, Cunha would have been on penalties, Hwang would be off penalties, and obviously then maybe I don't consider him as much. But the thing with Hwang now is that he's on penalties, and not only that, he's playing the centre forward position, so he would be finishing those chances that Pedro Neto is putting on a plate for him. So because of that, I actually think that Hwang Hee-chan is also a very, very good option that I also am considering very, very strongly. So it's close between Hwang Hee-chan and Pedro Neto. I'm sure most of you guys are also having this dilemma if you're going for a Wolves attacker. For the time being, I'm really 50-50. We'll see what happens closer to the team selection video. I may make a decision by then, and I'll let you guys know. But again, these are players without a fixture in 29, and basically it could lead me to then have to use a free hit then as well. So I think discussing the general thoughts about how I'm going to approach this transfer is that obviously I don't really want to commit to any strategy for the time being, and I'll keep my options open. The key consideration here is that if I go for a player with a fixture in 29, all I have to do in Gameweek 29 is to take a -4 hit and I can get to 11 playing players. If I don't go for a player with a fixture in Gameweek 29, I may have to take as much as a -8 again, which I already took in 25, but I may have to take a -8 again in 29 if I want to save the free hit then. So a lot of things to consider in terms of chip strategy, as well as how these players look and how they fare into my future transfer plans. Let me know in my position what you guys would do, who you guys would go for, and for yourselves as well, if you do have Jota, who are you replacing them with, as well as your other transfers. Any dilemmas that you have, drop it in the comments down below and I'll try to get to all of them. But if not, I hope this video was useful for you guys. I did drag on a little bit, but there were a lot of Jota replacements to discuss as well, so I hope it was useful. If you did enjoy, please drop a like and also subscribe as well, and I will see you guys in more Gameweek 26 content coming very soon. Bye bye.